Welcome everyone to member group presentations. Just a little background, this is a tradition for the member group meeting. All Alliance member groups are invited to create a 3-slide, 3-minute presentation, and we will go through all of the slides. The people who are here representing their organizations will present presentation order, and we'll go ahead and get started with Alpine Watershed Group. Kimra.
Hi, I'm Kimra McAfee, Executive Director of Alpine Watershed Group, and our mission is to preserve and enhance the natural system functions of Alpine County's watersheds for future generations. Next slide, please. We're unique from some watershed organizations in that our purview is not a single watershed, but rather it is defined by county boundaries. So we hold the headwaters of 5 watersheds. On the east slope, the Carson and the Upper Truckee, and on the west slope, the South Fork American, the McCullumney, and the Stanislaus. Our monitoring programs include citizen science river monitoring, harmful algal bloom monitoring, and monitoring the treated effluent from South Lake Tahoe for contaminants of emerging concern, such as pharmaceuticals and personal care products. We work with our community to implement both volunteer restoration projects as well as larger scale projects by contractors. And our environmental education program includes both youth education and community outreach. Next slide, please. As far as our current projects, California State Parks recently completed a new ADA accessible trail through Grover Hot Springs Meadow, and our beautiful interpretive signage is installed. So we hope if you live in the area, you will visit the park soon. In Hope Valley, our contractor will begin the latest phase of restoration work in a couple of weeks. This project will stabilize banks at 2 sites. For details, please see the flyer on our website homepage. As far as what's next, at long last, funding is starting to come together for the Markleyville Creek Floodplain Restoration Project, so please stay tuned. Wherever you are in the Sierra, we welcome you to participate in our virtual bi-monthly meetings. On the evening of November 10th, we will continue our partnership with the Lahontan Regional Water Quality Control Board in support of their West Fork Carson River Vision Project, which is an innovative and more flexible approach to addressing water quality impairments. At this meeting, we'll have a panel discussing completed and planned restoration projects. And we will also be continuing the roads and water quality discussion from our last forum with a presentation by the U.S. Forest Service on their roads in the watershed. And that's Alpine Watershed Group in a nutshell.
Thank you. Up next, we have American River Conservancy. I believe Dylan's here.
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to keep my camera off because my internet's having some issues. But yeah, my name's Dylan Brook. I'm a stewardship manager at American River Conservancy. We're located in Coloma, so right in between Sacramento and Tahoe, essentially. Our mission is to ensure, to serve our communities by ensuring healthy ecosystems within the Upper American River and Upper Cosumnes River watersheds through conservation, stewardship, and education. Next slide, thanks. So yeah, those 3 elements that we work on: watershed conservation by protecting habitat, agricultural land, and cultural resources in perpetuity through purchases or accepting donations of land and conservation easements. Our watershed stewardship program, we do this by taking care of and managing land or easements, including habitat restoration, enhancements, trail maintenance, and monitoring various attributes of a given site. And we have a pretty good sized environmental education program, and this consists of experiential place-based learning that helps people connect with their local environment. Since we got off the ground in 1989, we've protected over 27,500 acres of riparian habitats, oak woodlands, endangered species, and headwaters forest habitats. American River Conservancy has provided over 30 miles of recreational trails to the public in partnership with the Forest Service, Bureau of Land Management, and state parks. Our education programs have delivered environmental education to over 30,000 kids. ARC's stewardship program has restored and enhanced more than 1,000 acres of habitat. Next slide should just be a thank you. Yeah, if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to myself or any of our staff members at our website.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Bear Yuba Land Trust. Felicia.
My name is Felicia Dunn. I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator for Bear Yuba Land Trust. Just flip the next slide. This is just a video. We can skip that, but it is going to be on our YouTube page if you want to search for it afterwards. So we were started in 1990 by a dedicated group of concerned citizens who saw some of the development that was happening in our area of the Sierra Nevada foothills. We're located in Grass Valley, Nevada City region. And so they really stepped up and created the Bear Yuba Land Trust, formerly known as the Nevada County Land Trust. If you go to the next slide. Our mission is to protect and defend the natural and working lands of the Bear and Yuba River watersheds and empower healthy, resilient communities through nature access and education. So to date, we have conserved over 15,000 acres of open space in agricultural or working forestry easements. We have 6 preserves that we hold for the public, and we build trails. So we have 45+ miles of trails that we built and maintained. If you go to the next slide. So again, protect, defend, empower is really the core of our mission. Next slide, please. We have 4 strategic focus areas that we have identified in our region that we really honed in on to guide our conservation strategy and our sustainable recreation goals. If you go to the next slide. These are our 4 regions. So it's the Blue Oak Woodland and Rangeland, the Urban Core, Yuba Rivers and Ridges, and then the Grouse Ridge Headwaters. Go to the next slide, please. Here is a map of our service regions. So you can see each of these conservation areas, and they're really focused on different needs of conservation. So Blue Oak Woodlands obviously focused on that ecosystem and agricultural lands, going up to the headwaters, really focusing on protecting watershed resources. And then the urban core is where a lot of our trails are focused for sustainable recreation. So that's really our goal. Those were all outlined in the strategic plan that we released this year. It spans from 2020 to 2024, and it's really guiding our mission, and we're really making great leaps in our region to conserve the land and to protect these resources for future generations. That's pretty much it. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. You can email me, chat. I'll be here. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Felicia. Eastern Sierra Land Trust. I'm not sure who's presenting today. Is it Kay? Hi, Kay.
Hi, it is me. Thank you. It's so good to see so many faces and see names on here that I recognize. It's just truly wonderful. But I do have a question for you. Do you remember the time that you first experienced nature's magic? For many, this is the moment you'll never forget, one that shapes you for the rest of your life. At Eastern Sierra Land Trust, we take that to heart. We work with willing landowners to protect vital lands in the Eastern Sierra region for their scenic, agricultural, natural, recreational, historical, and watershed values. We know that preserving the Eastern Sierra goes beyond protecting land with legal tools. By introducing people of all ages to the value of conservation and by helping them develop deep bonds with the land, we're ensuring that the work we do today will last long into the future. Our community conservation program is designed to get people out onto the land and to respect the land. The program is primarily led by our SNAP member, in this case Marie, who served 2 years with us, shown here with the little free library that she designed, built, and installed, and that brings a diverse section of our community to our demonstration garden. Next slide, please. As our population grows, poorly planned development puts wildlife at risk. ESLT was formed when folks realized that they had moved into the middle of the deer migration corridor, blocking their biannual trek to summer and winter feeding grounds. So one of our key program areas is to protect critical habitat. Deer, antelope, bear, wildlife doesn't care if the land they call home is private or public, but they do care if it's turned into McRanches. This year, we added protection by extinguishing additional building rights in the corridor and by transferring our Swall Wildlife Preserve to California Fish and Wildlife. Another species we're working hard to protect is the crazy bird on the left. We're doing this primarily through our federally funded $8 million Regional Conservation Partnership Program, Livestock in Harmony with Bi-State Sage-Grouse. The RCPP covers the costs of conservation projects that protect wetlands, conserve sage-grouse habitat, sagebrush systems, and safeguard productive ranch lands against development or conversion. By saving their habitat, we're also protecting family ranches and farms. Next slide, please. Since ESLT was founded in 2001, we've helped landowners in our community conserve nearly 20,000 acres of critical wildlife habitat located on 25 unique properties. We do this mostly through the conservation easement tool, where we basically purchase the development rights from the willing landowner and then legally extinguish them. In the last year, we were given a 1,700 acre ranch that we're in the process of transferring into public ownership. And just a week ago, and I'm going to try not to cry, but the picture on the right, we closed on our largest agricultural conservation easement to date, 4,100 acres in the middle of Bridgeport Valley, the Honeywell Ranch. This is a picture of the ranch and the landowner, who is 7th generation working family on this ranch. It's about the land and wildlife and people and spending time in nature for solace and restoration. Come visit when you get a chance. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Kay. Next up, we have Mono Lake Committee. Is there a representative here? Oh, perfect.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Warshay Miller, and I'm the Eastern Sierra Policy Director with the Mono Lake Committee. And for over 40 years, the Mono Lake Committee has been inspired by a love for Mono Lake and its tributary streams. The committee's landmark success, saving Mono Lake from excessive water diversion of water to Los Angeles, is well known. We revitalized the public trust doctrine through a precedent-setting California Supreme Court decision, launched programs to meet Los Angeles's real water needs through water conservation and recycling, and achieved an extraordinary revision of water rights in the Mono Basin that ensures Mono Lake will thrive and its tributary streams will flourish. Slide 2, please. During this challenging year, we are working from home screens and phones to push a landmark stream restoration agreement with the Los Angeles Department of Water and Power past the finish line, modify and or prevent a poorly planned development project from damaging the gateway community of Lee Vining and eroding the public trust value of Mono Lake, and create new virtual education programs that reach youth in diverse communities of Los Angeles and Southern California. And from the field, we're working to protect nesting California gulls from a rapidly expanding invasive weed problem on the Nejet Islets, advance management conversations and solutions to address increasing habitat damage from Mono Lake, around Mono Lake, I should say, caused by wild horses, provide staff and equipment support for an international effort to census foul ropes, and working cooperatively with the California State Parks, the Inyo National Forest, California Department of Fish and Wildlife to improve and restore habitat at Mono Lake and its tributary streams. Slide 3, please. And I'll conclude by saying that hundreds of thousands of people have united in support of Mono Lake, and we have learned that protecting this place requires us to do more than we ever anticipated 40 years ago. And today the committee tackles new challenges, advances the restoration of the lake and its streams, supports scientific research, and engages the public through unique education programs. And thank you for the opportunity to present. It's a pleasure to be a part of this wonderful group, and look forward to hearing more. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have Restore Hetch Hetchy. Spruck, are you here? I can go ahead and read their slides for them. The mission of Restore Hetch Hetchy is to return the Hetch Hetchy Valley in Yosemite National Park to its natural splendor, while continuing to meet the water and power needs of all communities that depend on the Tuolumne River. 2020 through 2021 activities. Legislation, the Raker Act improvements of 2021. Reports, the second taking of Hetch Hetchy, replacing the water supply function of Hetch Hetchy Reservoir. New website, extensive social media outreach. And it looks like future goals to continue to work cooperatively with all parties and levels of government to undo the greatest damage suffered by any of our national parks. And you can find more information at hetchhetchy.org. All right, next up, Sequoia Riverlands Trust.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cam Tredenick. I'm the Executive Director of Sequoia Riverlands Trust, following in Sophie's footsteps, mentioned earlier. Our mission is to inspire love and lasting protection for important lands. We have an education program, we have a policy program, we have conservation, and we do quite a bit of mitigation, both in agriculture and in conservation work across the valley. Next slide, please. We operate in 8 counties, I believe. Have about 40,000 acres. Mostly recently, we picked up about 11,000, nearly 12,000 acres, a little bit over 12,000 acres in the Carrizo Plain as a result of some work we've done with SunPower and a few other solar power corporations there with mitigation with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife. We have 4 preserves in the Sierra foothills. Adam Livingston is our policy director, and he is the coordinator for the Southern Sierra Partnership as well. Next slide. One of the greatest things that I love about this organization is the way we integrate our education and conservation programs. It's almost like they meld together in ways that that just thrill me and make me very proud of the work we do across the valley in the Sierras, and also now in the Carrizo Plain. And a few of those pictures of people are actually on this call, and they're recent graduates of our AmeriCorps program, and they're very much appreciated. So that is Sequoia Riverlands Trust, and if you have any questions and you want to reach out, then please give me a call.
Thank you, Cam. Next up, we have the Tahoe Area Group of Sierra Club. Laurel, are you present?
This is Lynn Paulson. I'll speak because Laurel perhaps couldn't join us. She's the conservation chair of the Tahoe Area Sierra Club. Next slide. We cover the territory that's all the way around the lake in the Lake Tahoe Basin and the Truckee River drainage. There's both California and Nevada involved, 6 counties, the city of South Lake Tahoe, Truckee, and many smaller communities around the lake. We have about 1,500 members. Next slide. The Sierra Club, sorry. The Sierra Club motto is explore, enjoy, and protect the planet. So here we mentioned some of the recent issues we've been involved in. One is the invasive weeds that are in the Tahoe Keys and our concerns about the possible use of herbicides, protecting Washoe Meadows State Park, also the Martis Valley West project, which would have encroached a large-scale resort just outside the basin. And we have many hikes and other outings to highlight natural beauty. And we have outreach meetings and presentations by local naturalists and environmental activists. We're going to have to switch to virtual meetings because we haven't been able to hold them recently. So that's all I had on that.
Thank you so much, Lynn.
Okay.
Next up, we have Snowlands Network.
Hi, thank you so much. This is Gail Farrell with Snowlands Network. I have to start with Margaret Mead's quote because it's so inspiring to listen to everybody and the passion that we all care. I'm sure you've heard it yourself. Never doubt that a small group of thoughtful, committed citizens can change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has, and that's us. Thank you for all your work. Snowlands Network is an advocacy organization in Nevada and California. We represent the needs and interests of snowshoers, skiers, winter birders, and also the natural environment in the winter and protecting the winter. We have worked on the NEPA process for winter travel management in Lake Tahoe Bay, or let's start with Tahoe, El Dorado, Plumas, Lassen, Stanislaus, and now Lake Tahoe Basin. Next slide, please. Thank you. The NEPA process, as you all know, is involved and quite lengthy, and we have submitted substantial comments in all of those forests to protect the interests of human-powered winter recreation in all of those forests. Currently, you may know that Lake Tahoe Basin Management Unit is preparing their winter travel management plan. I have a fly in my house. Can you believe it? And we are in the process of commenting on that. Could you go to the next slide, please, Sarah? Thank you. Just among many of the issues that we're facing in the Lake Tahoe Basin and along the Mount Rose corridor is the overcrowding and lack of management for winter recreation along the Mount Rose Highway. So please sign up at snowlands.org. We will never, never, never share your information, and comments will be needed in 2021 for Lake Tahoe Basin. Thank you.
All right, next we have Circle, South Yuba River Citizens League. So South Yuba River Citizens League, this presentation was made by Danielle Bell. She's the Community Engagement Manager. The mission is to unite the community to protect and restore the Yuba Watershed. It's a grassroots organization founded in 1983 to defend the South Yuba River from proposed hydropower dams and achieved state wild and scenic status in 1999. What is the Yuba River? How big is it? How big is the watershed, and why is it important? The South Yuba River is 65 miles long, starting at Spalding Reservoir, dropping 5,000 feet in about 40 miles. The Yuba Watershed is 1,500 square miles, one of the largest environmental mining impacts in the state, from gold, timber, water. No continuous riverfront park, but rather a patchwork of public and private lands, and the Yuba sees 800,000 visitors a year. How we protect the Yuba. They protect it through forest health, river ambassadors, river safety and cleanups, river education, river monitoring, educational restoration, watershed science, Wild and Scenic Film Festival, and river advocacy. Centennial Dam, Yuba Salmon Now, legacy mine impacts, reopening mine, dam and hydropower relicensing, 401 action, cannabis impacts. All right, next up we have Sugar Pine Foundation with Maria.
And I'm here.
Hi, Maria.
Hey, everyone. I got inspired by Snowlands to provide you guys a quote. And it's from the Lorax. Oh my God. Unless someone like you cares a whole awful lot, nothing is going to change to get better. It's not. And yeah, there's a lot of people who care a lot here. Would love to see your faces, you guys. Everybody's turned off their cameras. So the Sugar Pine Foundation, we restore sugar pines and other white pines. We're mostly in Tahoe and Truckee. So the white pines that are here are sugar pines, western white pines, and white bark pines. by educating and involving local students and community members in hands-on forest stewardship, which is mainly planting trees, in fire scars and other restoration projects like logging landings and avalanche paths and forest thinning projects. And we plant about 10,000 trees per year, and this year is no exception. We actually already planted 10,000. In the spring, even during COVID, we didn't know what to do, but we put it out on Facebook and everybody said, well, just give us the trees. Because usually we do public plantings and we couldn't do any gathering. So we had actually checkpoints where we give out trees, and believe it or not, we gave out 10,000 trees, and we have about 5,000 to 6,000 for the fall. Okay, next slide. Why are we restoring sugar pines? Not only because they're the tallest pine and have the biggest cones and they're super beautiful, but because their numbers have greatly diminished. They used to be about 25% of the Sierra Nevada mixed conifer forest pre-logging times, but now they're less than 5%. Due to logging and fire suppression and a non-native invasive species called white pine blister rust, it's a fungus, exotic fungus. And there's a picture here on the blisters that it makes on the trunk of a tree. Why don't we just let these trees die? Well, of course, biodiversity. We want more tree species in the forest so that the forest is more resilient as a whole. Lately, we've been planting not just sugar pines and western white pines, but we've been getting involved in fire restoration since we organize public plantings and planting in general. And the Forest Service and other land management agencies don't seem to have a lot of funding for that. So we've been doing more of that. We've done it in the King Fire, in the American Fire. I'm just listing those because they're outside of Tahoe. But mostly we do it in the Emerald Fire here, also in the Little Valley Fire above Reno. And I'm trying to get into the Loyalton Fire that just burned a lot of land up north of Turkey. Next slide. Oh, so right now is actually cone collection season, and unfortunately the national forests are closed, or else I would be up on a tree just like this picture over here, collecting cones because they're ripening right now. But between the dense smoke advisory and the forest being closed, I'm attending the Sierra Nevada Alliance Conference. What better use of my time? So yeah, we climb seed trees to collect cones. They're specially selected. They're resistant to white pine blister rust, just naturally so. And then we grow little seedlings and plant them with school groups, community groups, or during COVID times, we give them out for people to plant on their own with their family or immediate COVID family, whoever they're hanging out with on their daily walks. It was a huge success because people needed something meaningful to do. And we will do some of that this fall as well. So if you would like to plant some trees, especially people from Sierra Club, because they're in Tahoe, and Snowlands Network, because they're in Tahoe, and Sierra Nevada Alliance. Yeah, subscribe to our newsletter or follow us on Facebook in order to find out the dates and times we'll be giving out trees. And we'll probably do some small group plantings as well. If you and your team, like 10 people or less, are interested, let me know. Just email me. Thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Tuolumne River Trust.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Hey, I'm Byron, and I'm the Tuolumne River Trust Headwaters Program Manager. We were founded to protect and restore the Tuolumne River and its watershed for present and future generations. We were founded back in 1981 to protect the Tuolumne River from dams being installed, which would have impacted recreational and environmental values that this watershed holds. Since 1981, we have been involved to look at the entire landscape, beyond just the river corridor that we started working in. We now work very closely with the YSS Collaborative in Tuolumne County using tools such as the Master Stewardship Agreement and precipitating agreements to work on the National Forest. The map on the right shows the Tuolumne River watershed, that's the black line. The peach color is the YSS project area, and then the teal is Tuolumne County. So there's a lot of overlap and a lot of opportunity for collaboration between these organizations. Next slide, please. We're currently working on roughly 8,000 acres of restoration across the landscape. This dark blob on the map is the 2013 Rim Fire, which burned 257,000 acres, with 97% of that in the Tuolumne River watershed. We're currently working on reforesting that landscape, increasing habitat, connectivity, and more. In addition, we're working on projects outside of that, such as fuel breaks, thinning projects, and more habitat restoration to help ensure a resilient landscape exists for the future. We also work with organizations such as the Tuolumne County RCD to create online learning opportunities during COVID. Next slide, please. We're working on growing in pace and scale as well. This area on the map now shows a project area we're working on. It's a 117,000 acre large landscape plan we're working on in collaboration with the YSS Collaborative, Tuolumne County, and the Stanislaus National Forest. As you can see, all of this red on the map shows areas that are susceptible to catastrophic wildfire within that land area. We are working to decrease that fire risk while improving wildlife habitat and more. Our goal is to become proactive on projects rather than reactive on projects to help us prevent the next rim fire from happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Byron. Next up, Washoe Meadows Community. Lynn.
Yeah, my name is Lynn Paulson from Washoe Meadows Community, and we're a grassroots nonprofit organization and a coalition of conservation groups, volunteer activists, and supporters from across the state that formed in 2006 to protect the natural, cultural, and recreational resources of Washoe Meadows State Park. Next slide. This park is located near South Lake Tahoe, and it's filled with forests, meadows, and wetlands. I can't compete with Beth Pratt's pictures, but we do have here pictures of animals in the park, that bear, a bobcat, and a pine marten. So we protested a project that would have moved golf course into the park, and our legal action resulted in favorable court rulings that canceled approval of the project. And this avoids what could have been a terrible precedent of converting long designated parklands into golf course. Next slide. We continue to remain active while the state parks is developing a new project that won't move the golf course into the park. And when conditions allow it, we will again have nature hikes in the park and cleanup events. We are planning to coordinate with Sierra State Parks Foundation on this, and we're going to announce the events on the Sierra Nevada Alliance website so that you'll be able to participate. Thank you.
On the board of the Upper Merced River Watershed Council, we've been around since 2001, trying to protect the watershed. We've been went through a downtime where we were looking for relevance, shall we say, in the area, but we've actually found quite a bit of it recently. So this is, hopefully you can see it, a website I put together for the group fairly recently. And I'll talk just a little bit about some of our programs in a minute, but right now we have a lot of emphasis on the wild and scenic river. For those of you who've been part of SNA for a number of years, MERGE was Mariposans for the Environment and Responsible Government. Either my wife or I represented them at these meetings for a number of years. We talked about the threats to the wild and scenic Merced River, both in Yosemite National Park because of commercialization and at the other end, where it goes into Lake McClure, and Merced Irrigation wanted to raise the spillway, therefore de-designating the first segment of Wild and Scenic River in history, which would have set a terrible precedent. So that's some of the work we've been doing to try and monitor those situations. And I've put a lot of material about the Merced River Plan and the historical threats to the Wild and Scenic Merced River on the site now. This is an example of some of our stewardship programs. This is a page that talks about water quality, a number of trail works we're doing. But I want to just spend just a few minutes talking about the Merced River Trail. Beth actually mentioned this in her presentation this morning. This is based on the fact that, as many of you know, there used to be a railroad that ran from Bagby, essentially near Merced, up into the park, or actually up into El Portel, close to the park. And that railroad bed is still there today. It's largely full. There are places where it's caved in. And there's been groups for probably 20, 30 years trying to turn this into a more formal trail. And unfortunately, earlier in this process, let's say a year or so ago, when this started being pushed or actually managed by the planning department of the county, information was published suggesting that this would be a graded and surface multi-use trail, heavy traffic, and that caused a lot of concerns in certain parts of the community. That's actually not what's going to happen, because the restrictions on use of BLM land, a lot of this is BLM, the other part of it's Forest Service, some of it's private, do not allow that sort of grading or surfacing of trails. So right now the project is potentially to restore some of the areas that are washed out, then gain access. Right now, the trail, quote unquote, on BLM land is a trail. You can use it as a trail legally. On the Forest Service land, even though it's in similar condition, although not quite as good, because BLM does a good job of restoring trails, it's not legal to use as a trail. It's not a trail. And so we have some legal work to do to sort of get that status changed with the Forest Service. There are places where the old railroad bed crossed across private land, and we need to do that. So we're sort of, the Upper Merced River Watershed Council is sort of serving as a buffer between some of the environmental organizations that are very concerned about any development in this area and the planning department and other groups that are very interested in using this trail to promote tourism. We're trying to provide a balance of exactly where this trail project goes. So that's about all the time I have, and I appreciate you squeezing me in there, Sarah.
Great, thank you so much, Steve. Thank you all so much for coming. It's so great to at least be able to connect over the computer, if not in person. I appreciate you all for making the time to be here today, and I hope to see you at the conference tomorrow.